Hey everybody, welcome to another What the Tech. This is episode 87. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by Paul Thurrott in a undisclosed location once again, live from his bunker.
My brightly colored bunker. The one thing I learned from Hitler is that you got to not go with the gray. Well, that's not the only thing I learned, but yeah, it's a little more colorful here.
Yeah, what color are the walls? Because it looks yellow. Yeah,
they're orange, and they're actually two different shades of orange. They look yellow in the video, but it's actually orange.
So Paul's traveling once again. You're running around.
Mm-hmm.
You've been traveling a lot.
Yep.
A lot of traveling for you. I don't know how you do it. I don't know.
I don't know either.
So today it's going to be a lot of Amazon tablets news. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a lot about the iPhone, Windows Phone 7.5. So there's a lot that went on the last couple days, and especially in technology, there are these periods where nothing is happening.
I know, but not this year.
Yeah, no, it seems like it's really gotten active, and at the end of August, it really started picking up. I want to get to the Amazon tablet stuff because the conference is tomorrow here in New York City.
I know.
I did not get an invite.
I've gone to this too.
I didn't get an invite. I don't know what to do.
I don't know.
I'm going to complain, Paul. I think that's what I should do. I'm going to complain to them. I'm going to write them a nasty letter.
If you could get in, would you go?
I would have actually because I'm in the city all day tomorrow, but I just set up so many meetings I can't.
Okay.
But definitely go next time if there is a next time. But Amazon tablet, the reports are coming out. I put together a little list of the things that we know. I don't know who I could give credit for this because I took it from somewhere and I don't remember where, but. I'll give credit to some of them. So the first thing is the name, right? We're finding out that the name of this, and I don't know, it's TechCrunch reporting it, it's MG Siegler reporting it, so take it for what it is. They're saying that the name is going to be the Fire.
Yeah, Kindle Fire.
The Kindle Fire. Now, it's an awful name.
Well, I don't know. It's obviously a play on the word Kindle, right? Which, to light a fire.
But do you think it's a little too... Like it's
I
like
think it's a
haha,
little too perfect. I mean, this is like the fire taking off. Like in the beginning we had a Kindle, but now we have a fire.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I don't know how do you believe that's the name? What do you think?
This guy actually is. I think he seems to know what he's talking about when it comes to the Amazon stuff. So. Yeah,
MG is really good with this stuff. So who knows? But at this point, that's the name that we're going to find out. The hardware, Ryan Block from GDGT is reporting that the Amazon tablet will look a lot like Research in Motion's BlackBerry Playbook.
Right, except it's going to sell.
Except it'll sell more than 100,000
yeah, exactly.
pieces of hardware. It's going to be a 7-inch tablet with sharp corners. Amazon is reporting that they've hired manufacturer Quanta. Is that it? Which designed the playbook to shortcut the Kindle Fire development process. I guess that's good. So it's going to kind of look like, well, that's kind of what we're imagining, right? It's going to be I imagine like a black Kindle. That's pretty much what I imagine it to look like.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, the current Kindle is kind of a graphite gray color, so it's probably not going to be too far off.
Somebody said in our chat room, they said maybe it's going to be spelled Fyre.
I hope so.
I hope so.
Like a 70s English rock band's album.
Funny. Block also said that Amazon is going to be building the tablet on the cheap. I don't know what exactly that means. It's going to sport a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, OMAP processor from Texas Instruments, which isn't too shabby, according to the reports. He's reporting that the tablet will not have any cameras.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what he means by on the cheap is a lot of the little luxuries that don't really make a difference to the core point of a consumption device, right? Which is going to be watching movies, watching TV shows, listening to music, and reading ebooks, obviously. So, yeah, the cameras will go. If you look at the iPad and think about all the superfluous bits, I think that's the stuff you can knock out of there to help keep the price down. I
mean, yeah, it's not really. I have the iPad, and I never seem to use the camera because it's so awful.
Use it once, and you'll see how terrible it is.
Yeah, and the front and the back. I mean, the front is awful, but the back-facing camera is even worse.
The back one's so bad you think something's wrong with it.
I was surprised that they put such a low-end camera in that thing, and I know they're trying to sell more future devices, and that's the Apple way. You kind of evolve into what people want, but
Well,
It's
come on. They knew that's what people wanted. And next year, when they introduce the iPad 3, and one of the things they'll bring out is, oh, and now we've, ensured that the back camera is just as good as the front. They'll applaud them like they're gods,
but even to the
as if
point
they've.
where even to the point that they don't put the same camera in the iPhone that they do in the iPod Touch, which
Right.
is weird to me considering it's the same exact device.
Hmm.
And they said it's due to cost cutting, but that can't be true because the thing is
Well,
still costing you.
it could be true. I mean, yeah. I mean, the screen on the iPod Touch is the same res, but not the same quality as the one on the iPhone 4
Yeah.
and so forth. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's just weird things that are missing. But this is going to be a 1.2 gigahertz dual core processor, so it's going to be fast. It's going to be a fast little tablet. So as far as the software goes, Paul, it's Android 2.1, and this is the thing that we were questioning. What is it going to run?
Yep.
Because Android 3 has not been made public, considering Android is
Yeah.
open source, but what the latest edition is not. So they'll hold back on certain releases. I don't know if Android 3 got released, if the source code got released yet. Because they did go to
think it has,
3.1 or 3.2 at this point. But they're doing Android 2.1, which I'm curious on why 2.1 and not a later version.
I don't. It might be just simply because they were developing this some time ago and they wanted to have a stable base to build on.
Yeah.
I think the thing we need to remember here is that, the Kindle device is not for, the hardcore tech fanatic. It's for common people, the regular people. I mean, the types of people that shop at Amazon that just want to do that stuff, read the content, view the content, whatever.
Yeah.
And, the types of people that would be concerned that this isn't the very latest version of Android are not the target market. So I think this is the important differentiator for them, that they're going to build something on top of it.
Yeah.
And it will be what it is. But
Well, they're saying that it's modified to the point that it's unrecognizable.
yeah,
You
which is
can't
great
even
'cause Android
tell.
looks terrible.
I agree with you 100%. And I hope this thing is successful because we'll start seeing more and more manufacturers doing this. I think a lot of people have been scared to take that plunge into developing on Android to the point that it's a whole different operating system. But nobody can because you still have to use the marketplace, right? With Amazon, you don't need to.
Amazon has their own marketplace.
Exactly.
So there you go.
You know what I'm curious? If Amazon is going to start kind of subbing out, like licensing the Amazon store for other manufacturers now.
That's interesting. Sure, like a branded version of the store
Sure.
on device.
Yeah, so
why
you would
not?
have, it would be a Android device, but it would be with the Amazon App Store. I think I've seen some of them do it on like QVC, like the cheaper ones, but to a grander scale. What if Toshiba says, you know what, forget this. We're going to put this out. We don't need to be Google certified. We're going to build it from the ground up, and we're going to use the Android marketplace, and they're really going to start pushing it.
I think that's a great idea. It's funny. I was just thinking as you were saying that there is some precedence for this. IBM used to be the sole hardware provider for the PC market, and then eventually their BIOS got clean room copied, and then the clone market took off, and now we have a PC market that consists of all kinds of companies.
Yeah.
So obviously IBM saw their own thing usurped because they went an open route, and that's how that happened. Of course, Google went into this with both feet, knowing exactly what they were doing. They made it an open thing. And now we are already seeing the possibility that this thing they created could be usurped by someone else, in this case, Amazon. So
I'm not going to take all the credit for that question. It's evolved from something else that somebody asked me last week, and they asked me to, it was actually addressed to you, and they wanted to know, I think we were talking about the customization of operating systems, and this is what's going to set Amazon apart from everybody else because they're not just slapping the latest version of Android and just keeping it plain and just putting stupid gadgets on it and making it slow. They're actually fine-tuning and they're refining the operating system. How come we never saw this with Windows? I remember there were these skins, right? You could get a skin on top of Windows, but how come we never saw it on a grander scale where a manufacturer...
Because Microsoft, they had controls built in
Okay.
against that, licensing.
But could they? I mean, could somebody theoretically take the code and just build on that, or
No.
Okay.
No, and I'm not going to, I don't remember the details, but for example, every time a new version of Windows comes out, there's this conversation you have with Microsoft where you say, so you going to let PC makers screw it up again, or are you going to finally rein it in? And they say, well, look, we have a good relationship with these companies. They really do feel like they're adding value to Windows, not that they're screwing it up.
You mean by putting, the HP task menu?
Yeah, yeah, because we need two ways to connect to wireless networks, and we need another media player or whatever, So whatever, but obviously I'm with you on that one. But from Microsoft's perspective, they put the controls in place that they can, and like I said, I don't remember the details, but in Windows 7, for example, there was a certain number of icons that the PC Maker could put on the taskbar, and that was it. And there were a certain number of icons they could add to the top of the start screen, or they could take out some things and put in some of their own things on the start menu, rather. We can expect Windows 8 to be very similar to that, that there'll be some measure of control, but they can't build something that's called, well, it doesn't matter what it's called. They can't build something that has Windows underneath but is not recognizable as Windows. One of the keys to success for these platforms is there has to be some kind of common experience. The UI has to be at least fairly consistent across the various PCs, or in this case, devices.
Well, I guess that doesn't. I guess because Windows is, it works. So really, why would you? I guess why would you want an HP version of Windows?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, why wouldn't? But it was an interesting question. I was curious to know if it was attempted or if at any point, maybe with like
not with mainstream Windows. The only thing I can think of in modern days, was that, and I don't remember who it was, but some PC makers were bundling third-party utilities in Starter Edition, because that was the version that would appear on netbooks. Starter Edition is very, very limited, and these utilities would allow you to do things that Microsoft didn't allow you to do, like change the background wallpaper, which is absolutely an insane limitation to put on a computer.
Yeah.
But
I have Starter on a netbook I have, and I can't put. I actually had to upgrade it.
Yes, yeah, to do some basic stuff.
Yeah. Which is a whole fascinating thing on its own. But this is running 2.1, which is an older. It's about 2 years old. This OS. So maybe that means that they've been working on it for 2 years, or that's what they decided to use. It's going to have its own digital content, movies, TV shows, music, ebooks, and Amazon App Store. People are saying internally whatever people have seen, and there's a very few people that have seen it, and I don't know how accurate it is, but they're saying it's if anybody were to pick this up, and if you didn't know it was running Android, there would be no way you could tell.
Yeah, that sounds great. I want one.
Yeah, I know.
So, good.
The pricing is going to be around $250, but they do say it's going to be $300. I think the $50, that extra $50 that you get off will be promotional deals like Amazon Prime, which you had said, which provides unlimited streaming content, 11,000 video, and 2-day shipping.
Yep.
I'm excited about this.
I am too.
This could turn out to be the competitor to, in the tablet world, and this might be something that'll save the tablet world, because in reality, the tablet market is it's a dead and untested market in a way. It is a dead.
There's no tablet market.
There's
an iPad market.
There's an iPad market, exactly.
And then there are these people that make other stuff that nobody buys.
I had a friend that bought the Toshiba tablet. It's running Android 3 points, whatever, and he's talking about this thing, how great it is. And I pick it up and I start playing around with it, and I go, this is such a hunk of junk. And he was so excited that he could connect the keyboard to it, and he goes, look, it's like a laptop. And I go, why would you want to type on this thing? Why would you want to?
Yeah.
And it's sluggish, it's slow, and it's big. Like it's a bulky device. And I'm thinking, why haven't they been able to do it? And I think Amazon probably can, because they're saying this thing is going to be really thin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think Amazon is the only company that can compete in this market. And by this market, I mean, these kind of media tablet, iPad type tablet devices, and it's for all the reasons we've already discussed. They get it, and they've been selling these Kindle devices for several years now, and I think they understand the market and what people are looking for. So I can't wait to see it. I mean, we'll see, but I'll order one right away. My only fear is that they'll have this announcement and then they're not actually shipping until November or something, which would be horrible. So hopefully they come out with the devices too.
You think it's going to be like that? I mean, a month maybe to ship it, right? They'll probably allow you to pre-order it.
We'll see.
$250, not bad though. Not bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
When the iPad first shipped, I always thought that's a cute price point for Apple, but all these other companies are going to be able to come on way under that, and no one did. And I still don't understand why that is the case. It might be simply a matter of Apple having locked up all of the parts supplies or
Yeah.
whatever. Not really sure, but this market where this very simple device starts at $500 is not sustainable, and I'm sure Amazon is going to be the company that breaks through that. So,
Well, now the reports are coming out that Barnes and Noble is probably will be releasing their Nook 2 next month,
sure.
and this is also running Android.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to go head to head, and this might be the market actually. But it could possibly be, these ebook readers that are tablets that will probably save the market, because that's
It's so messed up.
I mean, isn't that the evolutionary next step that these devices have to
It
take?
shouldn't be, but it looks like it's going to be.
I mean, I'm talking
Right?
about yeah, but for the ebook readers, I'm talking about like the ebook reader, right?
Yeah.
You're in black and white, then you go to color,
Yep.
then you add more features, but over time they're going to have to evolve into something else, right? They can't just be this black and white device, unfortunately, because they want to sell as much units as possible.
This is like one of those evolutionary charts where you have like a fish and then some kind of an amphibian thing that's on the ground a little bit,
Yeah.
and then a lizard. I mean, the reason it's funny is because the thing you start with, it bears no resemblance at all to the thing that you end with. So
Yeah.
the notion that I remember walking into it was a Borders actually that had the very first version of the Sony ebook reader years and years ago. And I really wanted it, as I really read a lot, and I know that that's fairly unusual these days, but I'm a big reader, and it was fairly expensive for what it was at the time, and the performance was very slow. But the reason I didn't get it ultimately was because I just didn't trust it. It didn't seem like there was a market behind it, that this thing would last, that they would be in business making these things 2 or 3 years down the road. And what it took for me personally was Amazon, because by that point I knew and trusted Amazon and knew that they would do the right thing with this product. And I bought that first Kindle, even though it too was very expensive and the performance wasn't that great, although it was better than the Sony.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recommend it to others because of the expense. But as far as the platform, I got it. Like, these guys really got that right. And of course, the Kindle has come down in price dramatically over the past couple of years. So, they could give these things away in cereal boxes. It seems like.
I think with the way that it's evolving, it's absolutely true. I mean, we went from this, which this was this is one of my favorite cell phones ever. It's an actual cell phone. It's a Motorola V60.
Yeah.
To this, into this giant block. I mean, look how. Would you have imagined that this would become a phone, 15 years ago? This is where we're at.
Yeah. So, sure. Yeah.
So I guess it twists and turns, but is this where we need to be at with the tablets? Are we looking at a market that it's not really this full-blown computer, but like what Windows is doing right now, because they're putting an actual computer in this device? What if it's not? That's not the answer. I
think there's room for all kinds of different things.
But what's going to sell? I mean, $250.
You can pick any market, cars, stereo equipment, whatever. These things all do the same basic thing. They play music, or they drive, get you somewhere in a vehicle. But a Mercedes bears no resemblance to a smart car, not really, other than the fact that they both have 4 wheels and an engine. And, you can buy a little cheap knockoff, East Asian cheap stereo equipment, or you can buy really nice high-end stuff. You can buy Bose equipment, whatever. And they may look nothing alike and cost nothing alike and be nothing alike in some ways, but they both play music.
Yeah.
They both do the same basic thing. So there's no reason that this computing market can't be the same thing. One of the points I just made here at work, having a series of meetings, strategy meetings and whatnot, was that I found it very interesting at the Build conference at Microsoft, when referring to these next generation PCs that will be running Windows 8, never used the term PC. They're called Windows devices, and that's not much of but somewhat of a more friendly term for these hardware devices, that we call PCs today. But, that the market is just kind of changing. And I think the differentiator there, or the reason you would call it something different, is that the PC has bad connotations associated with it around complexity and unreliability.
I mean, look, even down to the fact that Macs are not PCs, which they are.
Even though they very much are.
I mean,
PCs.
They are, yeah.
Sure.
It's still a PC. I mean, regardless of what.
You can differentiate it as a brand, but also, right, we don't get PC viruses. That's a great selling point for Mac. So I think this is, like you said, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, you talked about evolution. It is evolution. I can't claim that 2 years ago I would have ever have thought or said or suggested that the Kindle was the future of computing
I know.
in any way, shape, or form. That wouldn't have made
Yeah.
sense to me at that time. And it's amazing to me that we may be going to this future right now. So it's only obvious in hindsight, at
Yeah,
least to me.
I'm looking at the Nook. I guess this is the Nook now, and what they'll probably do with the Nook 2, and it's possible the Nook 2 and the Kindle tablet that Amazon is releasing could be the two dominant tablets in the market. And that's a scary and it's not scary,
Yeah.
but it's bizarre because if you look back, 3 years, the Kindle was an extremely overpriced device for $349.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, I'm like, wow, you know what? This thing would have been cool for $150. And they ended up dropping their prices, and they're extremely competitive, and they're doing well. And they might have learned a lesson.
Yeah, well, Amazon is sort of the Walmart of the online retailing business. So you have to think that when the Kindle came out at $379 or whatever it was in the beginning, it might have even been more than that. That was literally as cheap as they could make it at the time. Maybe the deal was just that it was expensive to make these things because people weren't making these things, so the parts weren't readily available in volume and so forth. And so they probably lowered prices as quickly as they could. But that high cost, the initial high cost, was a kind of a barrier to other companies that might have made such things. And frankly, there's some sense in an electronics company like Sony making an electronics device that is an ebook reader, because that's what they are. They're an electronics company. It's fascinating that we live in an age where a retailer can make a hardware device.
Yeah.
That's a consumption device for their content. But then as you sort of spell that out, again, in retrospect, it's sort of obvious, right? Because Amazon isn't a traditional retailer like Walmart or Best Buy, whatever. They were always only an online retailer. They sell things online. So they've always had that kind of mindset.
And they've been successful. Actually, this is
It
interesting.
enables them to do different things and think differently.
I just went to Amazon. There's a notice on Amazon. Dear customer, I have a big news for Amazon Prime members. We just signed a deal with Fox to add a broad selection of movies and TV. I guess this is going hand in hand with what they're going to do tomorrow.
Right.
So it's obvious, this is a strategic move. $79 for the year, and you get access to all that. So that's another incentive to go with Amazon. I'm really curious to see what they're going to put out tomorrow, because this could be.
I know.
But again, a year from now, if I have the option to get this for let's say $300, to get an iPad for $400, or to get a Windows 8 device, and I'm just going based on the idea that this device is going to be what we think it is for the Windows device, I'm more inclined to go towards Windows than I am to anybody else. I know that Windows is going to have those ARM chipsets, and they're going to be cheaper than $500, and it's still
the
Windows.
Thing for everybody, though, at least there's choice, right? The Apple thing can't last as a monoculture for too long because they're just too expensive, and you saturate that market at some point. Apple is not willing or able on their own to go down market. They just won't do it. But when other players come in, they'll go down a little bit. I think what you just said is probably correct. $400 to start for an iPad is probably about right for Christmas next year.
Sure.
And it will be because of the Kindle and because of the Nook 2 or whatever.
But in a way, you could kind of justify it, right? You could justify, but it's a higher end device. It's an Apple. You're in the ecosystem of Apple. You're in the App Store already. You understand it, so you kind of feel like, what, $400 I'll spend for it. I cannot imagine anybody saying that for Android.
No. Android will always be the low ball bargain basement Kia / Hyundai / whatever.
But it's just like Hyundai putting out but what they're doing is, if they're Hyundai and let's say Apple is, and I don't want to say they're Mercedes, let's say they're Lexus, right? Let's say they're a Lexus.
Yep.
Lexus is selling for $65,000, and then Hyundai comes along and says, you know what, we could do this. We can't do it as good, but we could price something at $65,000 because that's what Hyundai is doing right now. Hyundai has a $65,000 car in the market.
Well, like all comparisons, it breaks down if you look at it too closely. But I guess what I'm saying is simply that there's going to be a range of devices at a range of capabilities, a range of prices, and just by the nature of the market, more people are going to buy those things that are cheap. I mean, you're going to know that tablets have made it when you can walk into a CVS to go buy shaving cream and potato chips, and you'll have your choice of 3 Android tablets sitting there as well.
Yeah.
And that will happen. They already actually sell little, really junky pseudo computing devices at CVS as it is.
I think it's called like Panarium or something.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see where that's going. It's going to happen. So from a pure volume standpoint, the Windows PCs are going to outsell Macs and the Apple stuff, and these Android or whatever devices, because they give away Android, you can stick it in anything. From a volume perspective, they're going to outsell everything else too, probably. I mean, I think that's the way it's going to go. The compatibility issues are going to be there and all that kind of stuff. The ones that differentiate themselves and make actually beautiful devices, as we sort of hope Amazon does, I think we'll see the most actual success. But none of this obviates the fact that Apple is still going to have a good business.
Sure.
They make great margins. They still sell lots of products, and they always will, and they'll be fine. It's you get into these weird. I don't mean you, but one gets into these weird discussions.
I get into
where
weird
it's
discussions.
The Windows Slate PC next year that's going to kill the iPad. Or Android is coming on strong. It's going to kill the iPad or whatever. It's like
nobody's killing anybody.
It's not going to work like that.
Yeah, nobody's killing anybody. There's so much room in this market, and people are so split. And there are people that will never buy an Apple product, and there are people that would never buy a Microsoft product. People like to pick sides, which I don't get that. But
did I tell you that? Did I tell you the story about my wife and the Windows 8 Slate? I can't remember.
No,
if I told it.
No.
My wife is somebody who does not care about technology in the slightest, and I mean complete ambivalence. Could not care less. And I brought I brought that Samsung PC home from Build, and I said, oh, by the way, I said, we got these things, and it's running Windows 8, and I thought, I know you don't care about this stuff, but whatever. And she looked at this thing and she said, wow, this is really beautiful, actually. And it's really fast, and she says, so this runs all the stuff I do now? And I said, yeah. And she says, are there going to be versions that are smaller? She's like, I'd like to get one that's the size of the Kindle. And I said, actually, it's interesting you say that, because the range of devices that they've talked about was literally from a 7-inch screen, the size of a Kindle, all the way up to these, honking 30-inch desktop systems and so forth. And she said, so that 7-inch version, am I going to be able to dock that on my desk and actually use my monitor and my keyboard and my mouse, but then I could take it with me and it would actually fit in my bag?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, absolutely. That's what it's for. And she said, I want one of those.
Yeah, see?
She has never said that about any form of technology at all that I can think of.
You got happy, right? You got excited, because I get excited when my wife says that.
Well, it never happens.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not. I try not to get too excited, because it is my wife after all, and we know these things can come crashing down. But it was an interesting thing, and it drove home for me this belief I've had for a long time, and I know I voiced this with you, which is that people underestimate the demand for this kind of thing, and that there were a lot of people who walked into Apple stores over the last year and they looked at the iPad and they said, I get it, it's beautiful, but does it run Windows? No. Can I run Office on this thing? No. Yeah, I can't get this,
Yeah.
And were there to be an iPad that ran that stuff, it would be a blockbuster success. And I think that's what Windows 8 is going to be.
Oh, 100%. I think, and the docking thing is extremely appealing. I just had to, it's so funny you bring that story. I had this conversation with my brother yesterday when we were talking about the tablet. And we were discussing the tablet to him, and my friend had it. And he goes, well, can I connect this to my monitor and use it as a computer? And I said, no, some of them you can, but not. And the environment isn't good enough for you to use. And he goes, I wish they did that. I wish you could just take the thing and just walk away with that. I'm like, it's as simple as concept, right? And that's what a tablet, and in reality, that's what these devices are going to eventually become, right? They're going to become one unified OS, and it is with Windows. And you're going to dock this thing, you're going to have it on your monitor, and you're going to take it and go and do whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the various tech events over the years, and you always run into that one little trendy hipster goon who has, an iPad and a dock and a keyboard, like a Bluetooth keyboard, and then of course he's got to plug the thing in. So he's got this whole little setup, and what he has achieved at the end of all of this is he has spent as much as you could spend on a very nice Windows laptop, and he only has like 30% of the functionality.
Well, he bought a MacBook.
Yeah, well, except that he can't do app switching from the keyboard. He can't run apps side by side. He lost all of this functionality, including, by the way, the compatibility with the most important applications that you would want or need for such things as taking notes and writing articles.
Yeah.
Like not that there aren't such things on the iPad. I'm just saying It's not Microsoft Office. It's not OneNote. It's not Word. You don't get that stuff. And you've spent just as much money, if not more, than you would spend on a perfectly fine laptop. And you're carrying around all this gunk. And it's like, and of course, these guys all spend a lot of money on these leather cases, and they have to have carrying cases for everything. And it's like, you're missing the point. The iPad is beautiful because you don't need that stuff. If you do need that stuff, you can't use an iPad. So move on.
There's one case that some guy made. It's called like MIO Designs or MIA Designs, and it converts the iPad into a MacBook Air.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool looking, and it's $50. And I'm like, you know what? It's pretty cool. And I'm thinking, how many of these things sold? How many of these devices have sold? And now you're typing away on this device.
But again, still can't switch apps.
Yeah.
Not from the keyboard. So
yeah, it's
cute, but pointless.
Yeah, I
guess
know.
people have too much money and they just need to spend. I was under the mistaken impression that our economy was not doing so well.
Oh, no, Paul. When it comes to this
that's
stuff,
not the case at the Apple Store.
Hipsters around
God
the
bless
world.
all those people who have all this money to spend. But, I think eventually, karma heads are going to have to prevail. And, Apple will have to come down in the price. And they're going to get hammered by these other companies that know how to compete. Coming into the market at the same price as an iPad is a non-starter.
Yeah.
Because those guys all do not offer
we
the various things. They make an iPad special.
The perfect example of all this is how the I can't even look at it.
Are you going to say the touchpad?
Yeah, my brain just stopped.
I can
for
read
a
your
second.
mind, so you don't need to. It's okay.
Yeah, because you know why I stopped? I pulled up an article from a very reputable tech site, and they're discussing a story about the Nook 2, and the story is the data that they're grabbing is from a 2010 article.
Nice.
About the Nook 2. So my brain just stopped. Yeah, the touchpad is a perfect example of coming into the market at a very low price and competing with the iPad. But realistically, there's no way any of these guys could put out a $99 tablet because the costs are so high for these devices. And I know people are screaming and saying, well, this is why. It works. I'm like, no, it doesn't. People are buying it because A, it's dirt cheap.
Right.
B, they're buying it because it's only dirt cheap. And C,
oh, come on. A good iPod Touch costs $300.
Yeah. So
$99 is a great deal. What can you get for $99?
Nothing.
So, I've had dinner that costs more than $99. I mean, that's just, of course. I mean, but you can't make money selling those things.
Yeah.
So the problem for a company like HP is that it doesn't make money. It doesn't make sense for HP or RIM or any Android vendor beside Google to sell a hardware product that they take a loss on, because there's no way to make it up on the back end. Amazon, I think it makes sense for them to do this because they don't really care about the device. They're not really trying to make money on that. They're making money on all the services that they sell and the online services and products that they sell.
I still stand by my theory, Paul. I stand by my theory that we're gonna get a touchpad too. And this was a big ploy. This is HP's big thing. We're gonna get a touchpad too, and it's gonna be at $200.
And they'll say, hey, look, we listened. And
I really think this was all a big sham. I think they knew what they were doing. I don't think this company. I at first thought they were dumb with this PR that they totally fumbled. I think this is a big ploy. They said they're going to kill it, and then they said, no, look, we're going to drop the prices. Everybody buys it, and now you're already in the environment. You're using it, and they're going to come and say, well, look, you know what? Because you guys wanted this device, it sold. I can't wait for those figures, actually. I'm dying to know how many they sold in that time frame. Because they're going to turn around and say, we sold 500,000 units in a matter of 3 weeks.
Yeah, and they sold every one of them, whatever they had.
And they're making more for the fourth quarter. That means they didn't kill the device. They just did price
they're going to use it to get people to get into stores. They'll say, Best Buy will say, guaranteed every store on Sunday will have 100 of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how they're going to get people to show up during
Christmas.
And
you're going to go in, you're going to say, oh, you know what, I really don't want this, I'm not going to do it, and they're going to upsell you to a HP laptop. That's what they do.
Sure.
The whole thing. I hate Best Buy. I really do. I'm sorry.
Well,
I really do. I have a whole issue with them too. I've been banned from Best Buy and
I
the
was
Mac
going to say,
store.
you seem to have an issue with retail stores in general.
Yeah, I had my big hissy fit when they refused to sell me a Windows laptop because they didn't have Windows 7 on it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just a raging lunatic. The more you get to know me, Paul, the more you dislike me. That's what happens with me.
No, it's good.
I want to go to the Apple iPhone story. October 4th. I saw October 5th also.
Yeah, I did too, actually. But
I
I think Apple has come out and actually invited people and said
Tuesday,
it is
the
the iPhone.
4th. Yeah, it's the 4th. They're saying that, well, I have a couple sources here. Their French telecom CEO, Stéphane Richard, says that the device will be out the 14th and the 15th. Apple retail employees' vacations are blocked.
Okay.
So they're saying that it's going to be released on the 15th, which makes sense, about 2 weeks. And we're going to get the unveiling of the new device on October 4th. They're gonna. I guess I don't know. They still don't even know what the name is. People are saying it's the iPhone 5. They're saying it's the 4S.
I bet there's both.
Oh, so that's interesting. You think they're gonna do both? They're gonna put out a cheaper version of the 4, of the latest one. They're gonna call it the 4S, and they're gonna have the 5.
Yes, and the only question there, I guess, is whether the 4S is something they make broadly available, or if they just take it to China or some other markets where, they're just taking off.
That is interesting.
As a cheaper alternative, right? Because this is something the R&D's all been paid off, et cetera. So there are certainly have been, I don't know what we call them, spy photos or whatever, of the remade, exterior antenna, which we all know was a big problem in the iPhone 4. So there's a third design for that. The first two being the AT&T and then the Verizon versions of that. And that this one hopefully gets away from that, what they call it, attenuation problem.
Yeah.
Where your body, soaks up the signal as you hold the phone. But, maybe they'll put it in the United States as well. Remember, when the iPhone 4 came out, they sold a semi-new version of the 3GS.
3GS, yeah.
The 8 gig version.
It was a little upgraded. The hardware I think the hardware had a little
so
difference.
that could be the 4S right there. I mean, that's fine. It's a nice-looking machine. I mean, regardless of what happens with the iPhone 5, whatever it is, hopefully a bigger screen, thinner, all the typical Apple stuff.
I mean, the overall look of the iPhone was the same from the original iPhone to the 3GS.
Yeah.
I mean, the look pretty much stayed the same. It stayed the same for a couple of years.
Yep.
The 4 came out. Are they going to kill the look? But how much is the iPhone? If I were to go in now with a contract, it's $299.
I don't even know. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
I guess it's $299 or what is it $199, whatever it is. But the 3GS was $99 when the 4
and
came
cheaper
out.
than that too. Sometimes it was $49. Sometimes I think it was almost nothing.
Let me go to Apple right now and see. Because I'm
Different,
not too sure what the pricing is.
You almost want to go to like AT&T.
Let's see what this is.
See what their deals are.
Buy an iPhone. We are looking. Oh, it takes forever. Why can't I just click on buy an iPhone and it takes me? Like it's a whole thing. You got to find it. But yeah, maybe they are going to put 2 out. I don't know if they will though. Then you're talking, 2 separate devices, and then that's not the Apple way.
No.
It's a very un-Apple-like thing to do.
Except that they, again, they did it last time. I selling the previous version at a very discounted price is such a great strategy. Apple talks up, we sold 20 million iPhones in that quarter. I don't mean like I guarantee you, but there is no doubt that 50 to 75% of those were the cheap $99 3GS, and they're not going to be touting that little number anytime soon. But that's absolutely a fact. I mean,
but how many people do you think are going out there to buy an iPhone? They're not buying the 4; they're buying the 3GS.
I don't think you can overestimate how stupid people can be, frankly, and that for a lot of these people,
$199, Paul. It's $199, 16 gig.
Is it
Yeah.
16 gig?
16 gig.
Right.
$199.
So okay, let's see. Let's just.
So maybe they will put out an 8 gig and it'll be $99.
You can get an 8 gig 3GS for $49 today.
Yeah.
At AT&T, and then 16 is $199, I guess. Yeah, or a refurb 32 for $199. Actually, that's a pretty good deal.
But see, like who's going and buying those?
I don't know.
Maybe kids. Maybe you're not going to spend the money on, your kid
Except that
wants
you
an
are
iPhone.
going to spend the money, right? It's still the same amount of money every month. That's what I don't understand. So saving $100 or $150 up front is cute, but that doesn't really impact the overall cost of this thing. And I think that's where the
$150 over
stupidity
3
comes in.
years. or over 2 years?
Books have been written about this, right? Like the dumb way in which we make decisions. People see $49 as the upfront price, and they're like, "Hey, I'm saving money. What the heck?" And it's
I mean, you're saving like $70 a year.
Well, these are people who don't have a lot of money hanging around at any given time. So
don't buy an iPhone.
They may never not have $200 in cash or whatever.
Yeah.
So $49 I can handle, and then we'll think about that $70 to $100 monthly bill
when it
comes.
Oh, the American way.
Yeah.
Spend what you have in your pocket and worry about spending the rest later.
This is Apple's business model in a nutshell. Don't ever doubt that.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to release two separate hardwares.
Wow, we should have a gentleman's bet.
We should. You know what? Why don't we do this? When you're
involve beer?
Or sure. That's what I was going to say. When you're in New York, the loser buys the other one beer.
So we have to structure this appropriately. So I believe I'll put it very explicitly. I think that they will announce a new phone, of course.
Okay.
And that there will be a 4S as well that will be for sale in the United States as their cheap low-end replacement for the 3GS.
What I think. Okay, so you're going with the name though. You're saying 4S is the name.
I don't want the name to be part of the bet. There will be an iPhone 4 based cheap new thing. It will be new in the same way that the 2010 3GS was new, like new with air quotes,
yeah.
Kind of sort of new.
Because what if, they say the 4 but we're updating the hardware?
That's new.
That's new. Okay.
That qualifies, yeah.
Well, I think the 4 will stay. I think they're going to keep the 4 the same, and they're gonna bring the new 5, which the 5 to talk about.
Well, what if they do this though? So today the 4 comes in 16 and 32 gigs, right? What if they do what they did with the 3GS? They make an 8 gig version. That's new.
You consider
and wait, hold on. And
you're adding a bunch of stipulations.
But it's making it worse. It's harder for me because I'm being very specific. So I'm thinking. I'm just spelling out what I would consider to be new.
Okay.
So they changed the memory. That's new. Actually, if you want to make it very specific, let's just say this. If it has a different outer band, that metal part that's the antenna, that should be the qualifier
that's new.
Right there.
Okay. I think they're going to keep it the same. If anything, they'll bring an 8 gig model.
Okay. All right. I'll give you the 8 gigs.
Okay. But I'll give you the outer band.
Be on the antenna.
What do you think they're going to do with the 5?
Well,
they're definitely going larger display.
They have to have a bigger screen.
Yeah, they'll go 4.3 inch, right?
Now, we get into a tricky area here because Apple supporting multiple resolutions from a developer standpoint in iOS is very difficult. Adding more resolutions to that little matrix is going to make things very difficult on developers. So
what are they going to do?
They won't do it, but I would be surprised if they raise the resolution.
So now, again, welcome to the world of Google. Developing for Google.
The world where Apple people are going to have to apologize for the fact that the screen is bigger, but the resolution is the same, and thus the pixel density is actually less, and why that's absolutely okay.
Yeah, because now if you're a developer and you have an app, you're going to have to immediately update your app, right?
I mean, the way it works now is they give you a facility where you can specify different graphical elements that work at the different resolutions. And going from the 3GS to the 4 is actually pretty straightforward because it's a kind of a linear bump up, I guess, whatever. Yeah. Well, I don't remember the details. Probably 320 by 480 or something. What was the original iPhone? I don't even know.
The resolution?
480 by...
I don't remember.
20 by 480? I don't remember. Anyway, 960 by 640, I think, is the iPhone 4.
320 by 480.
Yeah.
That's the iPhone.
So that's pretty straightforward, but... if they bump up the resolution again, it would have to be some really screwy resolution.
But the resolution is what is it for the iPhone 4? 640 by 960.
Yeah, that's a weird resolution as it is.
Yeah. So what is it going to be now?
Up the screen by an inch or something. I mean, how weird is that resolution going to be if you keep the same pixel density? So I suspect they're going to keep it the same,
but they'll just have a larger screen.
Yeah, people want a larger screen.
Well, what are they saying? I'm looking here. Look at these reports. Reports are saying that it's going to be 1024 by 768. That's impossible.
Well,
they're not doing that.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, but I highly doubt they're going that much of a bump.
Scale. In other words, and I don't know this off the top of my head, is 960 by 640 the same ratio as is 1024 by 768? I don't think
No,
so.
640 by
I don't think it is.
960 is not 1024 by 760. I don't
I could
think
look this.
so.
I could look this up right now. I not look it up. I could do it in Photoshop.
I don't know.
Let's see.
I'm sending out a crazy resolution, by the way. Our video is 864 by 480.
Yeah.
And I get yelled at all the time. They go, how come you're not doing 854? And my software doesn't support it.
Sure. That's actually more common, right?
854 by 480 is the standard, but the software Vid Blaster that we use does not support that resolution. I think one is square pixels versus non-square pixels, and I think this is a non-square pixel. It's not a square pixel.
For the same screen ratio, 960 by 640. Actually,
640 by 960.
Hold on one second. 960. Oh, I did it wrong. Wait, it's 960 by what?
640 by 960.
Damn it. I knew that was too easy. All right,
I'm looking here. Screen resolutions for the iPhone 5. iPhone 5 getting a higher. Yeah. Why are people saying this?
Yeah, it's not 1024 by 768. That doesn't work.
No.
So I'm not saying they won't do it, but if they do, you've just completely changed the aspect ratio of the screen, and that's huge for lots of things. I mean, that's very difficult.
But because they are going higher in the screen size, that means it's not going to look as good.
I just thought of one other thing, I guess. At 1024 by 768, of course, that's the exact resolution of the iPad screen.
Yeah, there's no way they're doing that. Okay. Well, there are some Android phones on the market, I know for a fact, that are 1200 by 1024. But that's a high resolution screen. So how do you see? This is the problem.
I don't
with this.
understand the point of it. I mean, even at 960 by 640, whatever the iPhone 4 is, right? It's fine. It looks great.
Yeah.
I don't notice a big difference between that and 800 by 480 on an iPhone. So going up from 960 by 640 on an iPhone 4 to a slightly bigger screen, I don't think you're going to notice a difference.
It's still going to be 4 by 3. I mean, they're not going widescreen.
No.
So that's out of the picture. The bump-in screen, yes, we'll have a larger screen. I don't know what else we're going to see. Really, what else can they do with this device that hasn't been done? See, this is the problem, and this is where it's going to be interesting, Tim Cook's direction next couple of years, right? Because
we already know what the software is, right? So unless there is some part of iOS 5 they've been hiding from literally everybody,
which I doubt.
Again, Apple, it's hard to say, but we pretty much know what's there. So, it could have NFC capabilities, but I think what people are looking for is like a hardware thing, right? It's what are the hardware capabilities? So I would expect a bigger screen. I would expect a thinner design. I would expect much better antennas. I suspect they learned their lesson there, even though they publicly claimed otherwise. And I would expect a really nice camera. 8 megapixels is the running theory there, and that's fine.
For Steve Jobs to come out and say you're holding it wrong, but we're going to give you these plastic bumpers to use.
I don't remember the exact headline I wrote, but my headline from that event was Apple : there's nothing wrong with the iPhone 4, but please accept this free fix.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. Do you think Jobs will be there in any capacity?
I think it would be if there was any way that he could be. I think that would be the hugest boost that they could ever get. I think that would be incredible.
Maybe like a video from him.
Yeah, that would be awful actually, because that would suggest that he wasn't well enough to even get there. So
in front of a palm tree,
he'd have to kind of walk in and just like introduce people. It would be amazing.
Well, they are saying, on I think it was Mac Rumors, they were saying that it would be interesting to see if he does show up, maybe he'll put a glimpse into his legacy and what he's leaving behind.
Sure.
I think what he's leaving behind is that UFO campus.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's his legacy right there. I mean, this is a big thing, and
I always every time I see that, I think of the Boston Celtics, and in the '80s they were an excellent basketball team, and Larry Bird and all that, and they won 3 championships and could have won more, but whatever. And then that decade was so incredible that it allowed the Celtics to build a new basketball stadium, which of course he could never play in.
Yeah,
and
they did awful.
They did terrible for many, many years. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to Apple, but I mean it's like you're building something on the back of past successes.
Yeah,
and that doesn't necessarily guarantee you future successes.
I don't think Steve Jobs should be there. I think we have to start seeing what the Tim Cook era is going to bring us.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And he's a smart guy, but we are still on the ideas of Steve Jobs' Apple and Steve Jobs' vision, and I'm sure Tim Cook is going to follow the vision for a little bit, and he's gonna do things, but the next 5 years will show where Tim Cook is leading this, because I believe the next generation iPad is the last real device that has Steve Jobs all over it.
It may be the next iPad. I mean, I think that, and possibly too, I would say Air style Pro MacBooks, 15 and 17-inch Air style, but
which is a couple
I like
years
Tim
from
Cook
now.
a lot, and we haven't seen enough of him publicly to come to a big conclusion. But obviously, his style is completely different from Steve Jobs. There are some pros and cons to that, but he seems like a much more humble person than Steve Jobs, who always sort of tried to appear humble. But let's face it, Steve Jobs wasn't humble.
Yeah.
I think he'll be very deferential to Steve Jobs in this first event, especially, and highlight the notion that a lot of this stuff is coming from him, came from him, and he still is very influential over the design and everything. And I think that's important for the short term. But, I hope he sticks around a while. I like his style, and I think he could bring some much needed humility. I'm not sure what else to say.
To Apple.
They really do kind of need. And everyone's kind of struggling with this notion of, will they ever be the same? But people forget that there were negatives to the Steve Jobs stuff too. So maybe this is an opportunity to fix some of those things that, Steve Jobs just wouldn't have done or allowed because of the type of person.
What? Give me the development and the openness with the developers.
No, it's little things, USB 3.
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
USB 3, putting USB 3 in every one of their machines doesn't hurt anybody. It would, it doesn't harm the development of Thunderbolt in the slightest. Although I think that's the fear. They feel like they backed I almost said Firefox. That they backed what's it called?
Thunderbolt?
No, the previous
Lightpeak.
IEEE 1394.
Firewire.
Firewire. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I zoned on that. Apple backed Firewire to a big degree, and it never really took off in the market. And I think their fear with Thunderbolt is if they were to allow USB 3 to get in there, then they might actually harm the development of Thunderbolt. I think that those fears are misguided. I think Thunderbolt's going to be just fine, and it's always going to be much faster than USB 3.
But Paul, they're going to have to.
They've already integrated it into their monitors and so forth.
They're going to have to go USB 3. I mean, what are they going to do? Put 5 or 6 Thunderbolt slots in the laptops? I mean, over time, they're going to have to. 5 years from now.
That kind of penny ante stuff. It's like, I have this huge laptop that has 2 USB ports on it. Seriously? I get your distaste for all things that are ports and whatnot, but, come on.
Well, I'll tell you what they did, and this would have been this is a huge oversight on my behalf, and this would have been a make or break thing for me where I probably would not have gotten the MacBook Pro if I knew about this. The MacBook Pro, the latest one, my old MacBook had an audio in and an audio out.
Oh, right. I know what you're saying.
The MacBook Pro does not. They have one.
Yeah, my new Lenovo, the machine I'm using right now, does the same thing. They have an integrated port that does both in and out.
So, and my argument is, okay, so what if I want to record at the same time as speak into, I want to have voiceovers and I want to have overlays of audio, and I want to do all of that with this one port? I can't do that anymore.
Like, you just have to use USB. And by the way, how much better would it be if they had USB 3 and then you wouldn't have to worry about throughput issues?
Exactly. Yeah. So I have to use a stupid dongle, and it sounds awful.
Yeah.
Or I got to go buy some sort of adapter,
I don't know how this is turning into an anti-Apple rant in some ways, which is not what I was shooting for.
No.
People bring this kind of conversation to the table all the time about Apple. It drives me crazy because they think they understand what it means. But it goes something like this. Good design isn't just about what you put in, it's about what you leave out, And so anytime you say something like, well, there's only 2 USB ports in this, so they don't have USB 3, they'll always cart this thing out. Well, good design is also about what you leave out. Yeah. So
but I mean, this device
leaving
is
something
for
out isn't good design.
Yeah.
I
think
the
point
it can be.
Yeah.
But
I
just
think the point
because you left it out doesn't make it good design.
I think your point was that, with Tim Cook's direction, we might start seeing these little things change. And And as for the MacBook Pro is, the pro version. It's for the creator, the artist. These are the people using it.
It should be ported up.
It should be ported up, especially if your featured thing on this is GarageBand, and you can't do audio in and audio out at the same time. That's baffling to me.
Yeah, it's crazy that Apple doesn't have 3G capabilities in their laptops.
I'm going to sell you a guitar, Paul, but you're only going to have 2 strings on it. The rest you got to figure it out.
But listen, good design is all about what you leave out.
It looks beautiful.
And we're going to charge you a lot of money for it too, by the way.
Yeah. The strings are going to be $5,000 each one. I want to go to this rumor, this Microsoft rumor, because you addressed it on your blog.
Yes.
And I sent this to you, and you said, you gave me more detail about it. So apparently there was a big employee company meeting, and people
once a year.
And Steve Ballmer was delivering a speech, and people left in droves. Microsoft employees left in droves.
In droves is in quotes.
In quotes.
Yep.
What is the story behind this?
So, the story from my perspective is I woke up this morning in Colorado, had to get some work done, write a news story, at least one news story. And I get these emails from people saying, did you hear about this? I hope you're going to address this today. I hope you're going to write a news story about this. And I read this thing and I thought, I'm not writing about this. This is ridiculous. There's no way this happened. This is not right. But there was nothing else going on today, so I looked into this. And every one of these reports all boils down to the same source, which is the Mini Microsoft blog.
Mm-hmm.
A blog which, by the way, the post that everyone is quoting from was written before the event took place. So the actual author of the blog, who is a Microsoft employee, had not seen the event when he wrote about it. But what happened since then was that employees went to the meeting. Yeah. So the meeting occurred. And then people started commenting in his blog. And all these quotes about people leaving in droves and all that stuff were all from the comment section of the blog.
So people are making it up.
Anonymous people. You don't know who they are. They could be anybody.
So this guy... So this Microsoft guy, wrote a blog about the event, which,
by the way, was not negative in any way, shape, or form. It was very even-keeled. In fact, he was writing about how excited he was about this event because this is always such a great event.
And someone, some fan, went there and started saying, "I left and I'm an employee."
Well, actually, they didn't say they left. What they said was they saw employees leaving.
Why? Did we ever find out why?
Works. This event is attended by over 20,000 people. They held it every year. Lately they've been holding it at Safeco Field because they need a place that can hold 20,000 people. Mm-hmm. And it's a series of strategy sessions. You're not allowed to tweet or take pictures or write anything about what happens. It's private. It's for Microsoft employees. It's internal. But it's a chance for Microsoft executives to show off what's going on and give people a clue about what's happening over the next year. There are product demos and so forth. I heard from 2 different Microsoft employees that those reports are absolutely made up. They're baloney. They're not real. And that, yes, people do leave during the event all the time because they're going home. People show up for part of it. They have to go back to work, whatever it is. The people who were supposedly leaving in droves were just trying to get on the buses first so they could avoid traffic.
But
this happens at every one of these events. This event was no different.
But what would have been the reason for them to leave? What was?
They were done. They just wanted to go.
No. I'm saying like the rumor
there for the whole day. They can come or not come. It's up to them.
No, but with the rumor, like what was their reason?
Because inside of Microsoft, as there always would be, you have to understand the sort of culture at Microsoft. There was a big upheaval a few years back where. They basically got rid of the Windows team and replaced it with new people. Mm-hmm. And over time, the new people who came in replaced other people with new people. And there are a lot of people who don't like what's going on at Microsoft right now. Okay. So for Microsoft to have just come out of the high that is the Build conference where they unleashed Windows 8 on the world and everyone loved it.
Yeah.
To suggest that people at Microsoft who are upset about what's going on in Windows is anything other than sour grapes from these people who kind of got displaced is a gross exaggeration. Yeah. That's all it is. So there are people at Microsoft who approve of the direction the company's going in. There are people at Microsoft who disapprove, and now they have this place where they can go and whine in a comment section because they don't like the CEO of the company or the direction of the company or whatever it is. I'm sure these people can't stand Steve Ballmer. I'm sure those people exist. I know they exist because I actually talk to people all the time about this. My point is simply that this Safeco event, this employee meeting they had, was in fact no different from any other employee meeting. It's not like he started talking and half the audience stood up and walked out as some sort of show of protest. This is just guys who know how bad the traffic is in the Seattle area, and they wanted to get
They
home
want,
before the
yeah,
traffic. Yeah, that's all
unbelievable,
that is.
unbelievable.
So it's baloney. It's just complete baloney. So when I wrote my story, my original story was about the story that all these other people are reporting that this happened. So let's find out, how did they get all their information? Everyone is quoting anonymous commenters on a blog as their source. Are you kidding me?
Wasn't there a story?
Like, are you kidding me? I mean, by the way, even if it's absolutely true, that's what like. See, I get that there are no standards in the tech blogosphere anymore,
Yeah.
but really, like, we're going to write a story
About
based
a
on what
comment.
people say in the comment section of a blog? That's crazy.
But you know what? It's happened before. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Every day.
I forgot what there was a big story, and I think it was like a couple months ago when they were talking about how they took the quote from the article. They claimed that it was in the article. Was it you? You told me this. There was something. Oh no, it was you. Somebody commented on your. Something happened with the comments in your post, and then you got tagged for like malware or something.
Oh, this is the
spamming.
DMCA takedown. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a comment.
Comment.
It's not the body of the article.
Yep.
So
I never even thought to look in the comments because I'm thinking, what could the DMCA have to do with my article? I read it a couple of times. I thought to myself, wow, it's actually a pretty good article. There's original reporting in there. I talked to people from Microsoft and quoted them accurately. I didn't get that information from someone else. I actually got it directly from these people. I'm thinking, like, what could I don't get it. What's wrong with this story? I don't get it.
I mean, do we start
It wasn't the
considering?
story, it was the comment section.
Do we start, filtering the comments now? I mean, yes,
I think the moral to the story is, we need to start paying attention to that. Obviously,
no, I'm talking as a blogger though. I'm talking like as the blogger. Should you feel responsible for what people are writing and commenting on your site?
No, but we can't blame the blogger in this case.
Not at all.
I mean, for someone, you have to remember, you can follow how this works, right? Someone, I think it was at the Seattle PI, was the first to notice that people in the blog section, some of whom could be Microsoft employees, were saying things that were really negative about Microsoft. So they wrote a little blog post about that. But then it gets picked up by like Fortune. It's like legitimate news organizations and tech bloggers who don't know what the hell they're doing. All of them writing stories as if these things were facts.
Yeah.
You can see the headlines in various places. Employees walked out in droves on Steve Ballmer.
Yeah, there's no correction.
Except that is not a fact. That's a claim made by an individual who, by the way, nobody has ever met because it was anonymous on someone else's blog. You'll have no way of knowing who that person was.
I'm going to start doing that for you. I'm going to go to your site, and every time you post the show, I'm going to say, like, I can't believe Paul,
Yeah.
got
Allegedly.
drunk on the air, allegedly. Sure. I saw it. I witnessed it.
Right. He was there.
He was. He was. Before we wrap it up, I just want to go to Windows Phone 7.5. It's rolled out. Yeah. It started today. Many people are getting it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on here. Unfortunately, we would need another hour to cover this.
I know.
Appropriately, but I guess the big picture news is Microsoft had a lot of problems delivering updates earlier in the year, and it looks like they really are fixing that problem nicely. So. They are deploying to a small portion of virtually all customers who already have Windows Phone today. The only exceptions are T-Mobile customers in the United States and Telefonica customers in Spain, both of which are still testing the update. But everyone else, you have a 10% chance today of getting it, and then it goes up to 25% at the end of the week, and then 50% by the end of next week, and 75% after that.
It's a slow rollout, but.
Yeah,
I remember when
they want to make sure they get it right.
When they launched, they said the initial update will be left to the service providers, but the second update will be will be like what Apple does.
In this case, actually, they went. They've clearly talked to all these people, and everyone has agreed. Almost everyone was able to do it by this date. So they did this in concert with the other groups. I do want to bring forth a comment that Microsoft made to me. Which you'll be able to see in written form in a few hours. I think I wrote an editorial. I just don't believe it's been published yet. But Greg Sullivan is a good friend of mine, works in the Windows Phone team. Was comparing the way that Google does this to the way that Microsoft does. So I'm going to read the quote as I wrote it. I took notes as he said it. So this is from Greg, but he admitted that they had a problem to solve with the updating. But what he said was that, and this is him saying this. He said our model is more like Android. It's a horizontal approach with different hardware devices, different wireless carriers, and different languages. And each one of those requires a unique image, like a software image. Managing the process for updating all that stuff is hard, but at least we're doing it. With Android, Google doesn't even try to update all the devices, not at the same time, and sometimes not ever.
Yeah.
Apple, by contrast, and this is something I wrote, has a much simpler time updating its iPhone devices because there's no hardware variability. They just have an iPhone. It's very simple. And what Greg Sullivan said was that Microsoft's approach is kind of the best of both worlds. He said you get a choice of the hardware and the networks, but everyone gets the updates, and in this case, they're making it available to over 90% of the customer base fairly immediately, over the next couple of weeks.
And that's a very large percentage, considering you're right. With Android, who knows if you ever get an update? You
never know if you're ever going to get an update.
There are phones that come out, after the one that gets the update.
Yep.
Which is
There's
amazing.
some that will never be updated.
No.
So Microsoft has an ecosystem that's just like Android, except they're committed to giving people updates. So I think that puts the problems that Microsoft had earlier this year into a very nice context, and that it's still not perfect. When iOS 5 comes out, if you want it that day, you'll be able to get it as an iPhone user. There's no doubt that that's better. But then again, as an iPhone user, you don't have as much choice with device types and all the different capabilities, wireless carriers, and so forth. So I just wanted to highlight the fact that with Windows Phone, aside from the things that I happen to think are vastly superior on that platform, you also do get that best of both worlds effect, where you get the choice for hardware and carriers, and then you get all the updates. So, again, nothing's perfect, but I really do feel like they're kind of pushing a nice middle ground.
Yeah, I want to get my hands on one still. I definitely want to get one because I want to learn about it, and I want to actually know what I'm talking about when I'm discussing the device, because I think with more and more of these service providers carrying Windows Phone now, which is pretty much everybody, we're going to start seeing better phones and more features and more updates, and you don't know what's going to happen in a year or two. It could
this release is great too, and it basically answers all the little petty concerns I had with the first version. There were a lot. They kind of rushed it out to market. They wanted to get in as quickly as they could, and it was great. And the foundation was very solid. But there were these little missing bits, and you kind of run down the feature list and the improvement list on this one, and it's like it's amazing how much they got done and really just filled in all those gaps. So,
it's
really,
a big
really
update.
good stuff.
It was a big update.
Yep.
It fixed a lot of the things. Paul, it is 5:13. That means we have to wrap it up.
Yep.
I want to remind everybody you could go and check out all of our episodes. If you miss it live, you could go to gfqnetwork.com. You could also watch us live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. East at gfqlive.tv. We're on iTunes. We're on the Zune. We're pretty much everywhere. So subscribe to us. It's a big help when you do. I believe What the Tech was the most downloaded show last week for the network, so it's doing great the last couple of weeks. You could check out Paul's site, winsupersite.com. I go there every day, Paul.
Who doesn't?
I know. Why wouldn't you? I go to winsupersite. I'm going there right now, winsupersite.com. There you go. It's very informative, and your blogs are very detailed, which I like. And someone like me that really, I'm stupid sometimes. I could understand it. You make it very easy for me to understand the stories.
It's my job.
Yeah, you make it very easy. You don't have the whole Steve Jobs thing going where you yell at me and,
I'll get there.
You tell us we're wrong. You could also check out Windows Weekly to get your Windows fix with Paul on the Twit Network every Thursday, 2 p.m. at live.twit.tv or twit.tv. You could check it out. One of my favorite podcasts, actually. Everything Paul does is my favorite. Paul could just...
I like you too.
Yeah, I like Paul. Even when he's in an orange room.
I know, with a green shirt on.
With a green shirt on. Very tropical.
I didn't really think this one through.
And we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.